The train rattled to a stop at the small station, its whistle echoing against the hills draped in fiery October leaves. Sofia Marquez stepped down with her suitcase in hand, boots crunching against the wooden platform. The air was sharper here than in the city, cool and damp, touched with the scent of wood smoke and fallen leaves. She pulled her scarf tighter around her neck and took in the little town she had only read about in research papers and folklore journals. Willows Hollow. On the surface, it was like any New England postcard: cobbled streets, lanterns hung from iron hooks, pumpkin displays glowing in shop windows. But beneath it, Sofia could already sense what had drawn her here. A kind of hush, like the town was guarding secrets. She rented a cottage at the edge of town, small, drafty, but with shelves wide enough for her notes and a fireplace that popped with warmth once she coaxed it to life. Her purpose was simple: a month of research, long walks in the autumn woods, and access to the local archives where stories of witches, hauntings, and forgotten women lay waiting. On her first morning, rain drizzled lightly as she crossed the square toward the library. The building was an old stone church turned into a sanctuary of books, with stained glass windows that painted the floors in muted color. She shook off her umbrella, tugged off her gloves, and looked around. That was when she saw her. A woman, seated by the tall window, reading by the light of the storm. Her dark hair tumbled in loose waves over one shoulder, and her dress, simple, black, and old-fashioned in a way Sofia couldn't quite place, seemed to drink in the shadows around her. She turned a page, her fingers graceful, and glanced up. Their eyes met. For a moment, Sofia forgot to breathe. The woman's gaze was steady, deep, with something that unsettled and drew her at once, as if she had been waiting for this exact meeting. Then, with a small, almost secretive smile, the stranger dipped her head and returned to her book. Sofia found herself walking to the shelves nearby, pulling a random volume just for an excuse to stay. The air felt charged, the way it sometimes did before a thunderstorm. Finally, gathering courage, she turned. "Excuse me," she said softly, "is this seat taken?" The woman looked up again. This time, the smile reached her eyes. "No. Please." Her voice was low, warm, with a lilting accent Sofia couldn't place. Sofia set her book down, realizing she hadn't even checked its title. "I'm Sofia. I'm doing some research here, folklore, mostly." The woman tilted her head, studying her. "Folklore," she repeated, like the word was a secret. "Then you've come to the right town. Willows Hollow has more stories than it has people." A soft laugh escaped Sofia. "So I've been told." She hesitated, then asked, "And you? Are you from here?" The woman's eyes flickered, just for a heartbeat, like candlelight catching in glass. "In a way," she said. Then she extended her hand across the table. "Evelyn." Her skin was cool against Sofia's, but her grip was firm, grounding. For reasons she couldn't explain, Sofia felt a shiver that wasn't from the drafty window. When Evelyn let go, the room felt just a little dimmer. By her second week in Willows Hollow, Sofia had learned two things: the town ran on folklore as much as it did on coffee, and Evelyn Blackthorn had a way of appearing at the edges of her days. It began with small encounters. Evelyn at the corner bakery, her gloved hand wrapped around a paper cup of cider. Evelyn on the steps of the library at dusk, watching the last leaves spin down the cobblestone street. Evelyn moving like a figure threaded into the town's rhythm, always quiet, always a little apart. And always with that same look, like she was studying Sofia, but never speaking too much at once. One evening, Sofia stopped by the general store to pick up firewood and tea. The shopkeeper, an elderly woman with sharp eyes and a shawl as thick as a blanket, leaned across the counter. "You've been spending time up by the library," she said casually. Sofia blinked. "Yes, it's where my research is." The woman gave a knowing hum. "And who else did you find there?" "Dark hair, pale as moonlight." Sofia hesitated, unsure how much to admit. "You mean Evelyn?" The shopkeeper's expression shifted, something like pity mixed with fear. "Best you keep your distance, dear. Blackthorn women bring nothing but sorrow." That manor of hers has stood empty for 200 years. If she invites you there, don't go. Sofia frowned, trying to piece it together. But she lives there, doesn't she? The woman only shook her head. That house eats the ones who belong to it. Just be careful. Halloween's coming. The warning clung to Sofia as she walked home, the wind pushing through the trees like whispered voices. She lit the fire in her cottage, made tea, and tried to bury herself in old texts about the witch trials. Names, accusations, confessions dragged from terrified women. One in particular leapt out at her. Evelyn Blackthorn. Accused of witchcraft. Executed on All Hallows' Eve, 1692. Sofia's pulse quickened. She traced the faded ink with her finger, reading the fragments of testimony. Evelyn had been young, beautiful, educated, qualities that in a fearful town were enough to condemn her. The records ended abruptly, a line scrawled in the margin, "Her spirit lingers at Blackthorn Manor." Sofia leaned back, the fire popping beside her. A rational mind told her it was coincidence. A ghost story to spice up the town's history. And yet, she remembered Evelyn's cool hand, the way her eyes glimmered like candle flames. The sound of a knock startled her. She opened the door to find Evelyn standing in the misty dark, an unlit lantern dangling from her hand. "You shouldn't walk alone at night," Evelyn said softly. "The woods remember things. Come, I'll walk you to the edge." And though Sofia knew the shopkeeper's warning still clung to her, she found herself stepping into the night beside Evelyn, the lantern's glow pulling her deeper into shadows that felt almost alive. The woods were alive with sound, the crunch of damp leaves, the whisper of wind threading through bare branches. Evelyn's lantern swayed gently, casting a circle of amber light that made the night feel both safer and stranger. Sofia kept her hands tucked into her coat, glancing sideways at her companion. "Do you always walk the woods at night?" she asked. Evelyn's smile was faint. "Always is a long time. But yes, I prefer it when the town is quiet. When the masks slip." Sofia tilted her head. "Masks?" Evelyn looked at her, the lantern light catching in her eyes. "Everyone wears one, don't they? Even you, Sofia." The word sent a shiver through her. "What makes you think I'm hiding something?" "Because you came here alone." Evelyn's tone was gentle, not accusing. "You bury yourself in books, in history. People don't do that unless they're searching for something they've lost, or something they've never found." Sofia's throat tightened. She wanted to deny it, but instead she said, "And what about you? What are you searching for?" Evelyn's gaze lingered on her so long that Sofia thought she wouldn't answer. Then she whispered, "A way back." They walked in silence after that, until the path spilled them out near the cottages. Evelyn stopped, lowering the lantern. "Thank you," Sofia said softly. "For walking me back." Evelyn's lips curved in a half-smile. "You make it sound as if you were the one keeping me safe." Before Sofia could reply, Evelyn reached into her coat and pulled out a small candle. She pressed it into Sofia's palm. "For your window," she said. "On Halloween night, the veil between worlds thins. If you light it, the spirits will know you mean no harm." Sofia stared at the candle, plain wax, but warm where Evelyn's fingers had touched it. "You talk as if you believe in those stories," she said. Evelyn's expression softened, almost sad. "I don't need to believe. I remember." Then she lifted the lantern, gave Sofia one last look that felt like a question left unspoken, and vanished back into the trees. The days that followed were restless. Sofia buried herself in research, but every page about Willow's Hollow seemed to lead her back to Evelyn. Townsfolk grew hushed when she asked too much. Old records carried the name Blackthorn like an echo. And at night, Sofia found herself setting the candle on her windowsill, running her fingers over its smooth surface, wondering what it would mean to light it. One afternoon, as she left the library with arms full of books, Evelyn was waiting under the archway, her hair shimmering in the pale sun. "There's a masquerade on Halloween," Evelyn said without preamble. "At the church." Everyone goes. You should, too. Sofia smiled despite herself. Will you be there? Evelyn's lips curved. Perhaps. She leaned closer, her voice dropping to a near whisper. But if you want the truth of this town, come to Blackthorn Manor first. Sofia's heart tripped. You mean the house on the hill? Evelyn's eyes glimmered, unreadable. You'll find it. The doors will open for you. Before Sofia could ask more, Evelyn stepped back, melting into the crowd as though she'd never been there at all. And just like that, Sofia knew where her steps would take her on Halloween night. The library had grown colder as October slipped toward its end. Sofia sat hunched over a table, sleeves pulled tight, breath misting faintly in the air. Piled before her were newspapers yellowed with time, parish records, and journals with ink faded to the color of dried blood. Again and again, the name surfaced. Evelyn Blackthorn. In life, she had been a woman of means, educated and sharp-tongued, unafraid to challenge the men of Willow's Hollow when they clung too tightly to fear and superstition. Her beauty was remarked upon in cruel tones, accusations of beguilement, of unnatural charm. And then, the inevitable, she was called witch. Sofia traced the records with her finger. There was no trial transcript, only fragments, a council's verdict, a date, the words All Hallows Eve, 1692. The line that struck her hardest was written in a trembling hand in the town minister's diary. She cursed them with her last breath. Said she would return when the veil was thin. That she would not rest until she was seen for who she truly was. Sofia shut the book, her pulse drumming in her ears. That evening, she wandered to the tavern where townsfolk gathered. The scent of cider and roasting chestnuts filled the air, the fire snapping in the hearth. A group of locals sat near her, voices lowered but urgent. Saw her again last night. Near the woods. Hush. Don't speak her name. The stranger from the city, she's already caught her eye. Just like the others. Sofia's skin prickled. She turned slightly, catching the older man's gaze. He leaned toward her with a solemn look. If she asks you to that house, he said, don't go. The Blackthorn Manor has no warmth, no mercy. The last woman who followed her there was never seen again. Sofia forced a polite smile, but inside her chest something twisted. Not fear exactly, something closer to defiance. She didn't believe in curses. She believed in history, in voices twisted by fear. And yet, when she stepped outside, the night pressed close. A figure lingered at the end of the lane. Evelyn. Her dark silhouette framed by mist, lantern glowing faintly in her hand. Sofia's breath caught. Evelyn lifted the lantern higher, not in greeting but as if to test her resolve. I hear the town talks about you, Sofia said when she drew near. Evelyn's lips quirked in a humorless smile. They always have. Fear is a story they tell themselves so they don't have to face the truth. And the truth is? Sofia pressed. Evelyn's eyes glimmered like flame behind glass. That sometimes, the thing they fear most is only a woman who refuses to be forgotten. The words rooted deep in Sofia, heavier than the autumn night. Evelyn reached out then, brushing her fingers lightly against Sofia's wrist. The touch was cold, yet it sent a rush of heat through her. Come to the manor before the masquerade, Evelyn whispered. There are things you must see. And before Sofia could answer, Evelyn slipped back into the fog, leaving the echo of her touch like a brand against her skin. The church had been transformed. Candles flickered along the walls, casting elongated shadows that danced like ghosts. Spiderwebs of golden threads crisscrossed the vaulted ceilings, and the pews were pushed aside to make room for dancers swaying beneath chandeliers of lanterns. Sofia stepped inside, her costume, a simple black velvet dress with a mask of silver lace, pulling her into the illusion of the night. Music hummed, low and rhythmic, a heartbeat beneath the whispers of the crowd. She searched for Evelyn, but the woman was nowhere to be seen. Instead, there were townsfolk in elaborate masks, whispering stories about the Blackthorn spirit and warning newcomers to beware. A thrill of fear ran along Sofia's spine, mingling with curiosity. She wandered through the dancers, her gaze scanning every shadow. And then, across the hall, she saw her. Evelyn stood apart, near the arched window, her black gown catching the candlelight like water in the moon. Her mask was delicate, embroidered with silver thread, revealing only eyes that glimmered like twin flames. She moved with a fluid grace, unapproachable yet magnetic. Sofia's breath hitched. The air between them seemed to thrum with something unspoken. Heartbeats like the rhythm of the music pulsed through the space separating them. At last, Evelyn stepped forward, closing the distance just enough for Sofia to feel the warmth radiating from her presence. "You came," Evelyn said, her voice low and melodic, threading through the music. Sofia nodded, words caught in her throat. I had to see for myself. All of it." Evelyn extended a gloved hand, inviting Sofia to dance. Hesitant, Sofia took it, and suddenly the world narrowed. Their movements synchronized with the music, each step deliberate, each glance electric. "You're different from the stories," Sofia whispered. Evelyn tilted her head, a ghost of a smile flickering across her lips. "And you're different from the townsfolk," she replied. Not afraid to look closer. To see truth in shadow. For a moment, the room faded, the masked crowd, the flickering candles, even the music became a distant murmur. All Sofia could see were Evelyn's eyes, luminous and impossible to look away from. A sudden bell tolled from the steeple, marking midnight. Evelyn stiffened, her hand tightening around Sofia's. "It's time," she said. Her gaze flicked toward the church doors. "You should come with me." Sofia's pulse raced, half from fear, half from desire. "To the manor?" Evelyn nodded. "There are things you must understand before this night ends." And without another word, she led Sofia out into the misty night, away from the masquerade, and toward the Blackthorn Manor looming like a shadowed sentinel on the hill. The road to Blackthorn Manor wound through the woods, leaves rustling beneath their feet, the fog curling like smoke around gnarled trees. Sofia's hands clutched her cloak tighter, but the chill in the air was nothing compared to the tremor in her chest. The manor loomed ahead, its silhouette jagged against the moonlit sky. Windows glowed faintly, flickers of candlelight dancing inside as though the house itself breathed. Evelyn stopped at the gate, turning to face Sofia. "You need to know," Evelyn said, her voice trembling slightly despite its usual calm. "Everything the town says about me is half truth, half fear." Sofia swallowed. "What do you mean?" Evelyn stepped closer, the lantern casting a halo around her face. "I am not entirely among the living," she whispered. "I have been bound here for centuries, accused of witchcraft I did not commit. Every Halloween, the veil thins. I can walk among you. I can be near someone like you." Sofia felt the world tilt. You're a spirit?" Evelyn's eyes glimmered, sorrowful yet radiant. "Yes. And I have waited, centuries, for someone who could see me as I am, without fear." A shiver ran down Sofia's spine, but it wasn't fear. It was something deeper, pulling her toward Evelyn, toward the impossible truth that seemed to hum between them. I don't care," Sofia whispered. "I only know. I want to be with you." Evelyn's lips curved in a fragile smile. "You risk more than you know. Those who follow me," she gestured to the manor, "sometimes vanish. But there is a choice. I can stay bound, or I can try to walk among the living, if you truly wish it." Sofia's heart pounded. She reached for Evelyn's hand, and when her fingers brushed hers, warmth spread through her, defying reason. "Then don't vanish. Stay with me." A sudden gust of wind shook the manor doors, rattling the windows. Candles flared as though the house itself were listening. Evelyn's form began to shimmer, translucent at first, then solid, flesh and bone coalescing with a brilliance that made Sofia gasp. I can," Evelyn whispered, tears glimmering in her eyes. "Because of you." They embraced, the manor around them alive with whispers and sighs of long-forgotten spirits, the centuries of loneliness dissolving in the warmth between them. Outside, the fog curled and shifted, the night holding its breath. Evelyn pulled back just enough to look at Sofia, her hands cradling her face. "You freed me," she said softly. "From the fear, from the time that held me captive." "And I." Sofia leaned in, pressing her lips to Evelyn's. The kiss was gentle at first, then deepened, tasting of candle wax, autumn air, and a promise that neither centuries nor fear could undo. When they finally broke apart, breath mingling in the cold night, the manor seemed to sigh, settling into a quiet peace for the first time in hundreds of years. Outside, the town's bells told the hour. Inside, Sofia and Evelyn stood together, hand in hand, the past finally behind them, the future, uncertain, bright, and theirs, stretching before them like the endless night sky. Winter had not yet come, but the crisp air carried the scent of frost and smoke from fireplaces. Willow's Hollow had settled into its usual rhythm, shops open, children laughing, and the streets glowing with lanterns that seemed brighter than ever. Atop the hill, Blackthorn Manor had changed. Windows were filled with light, curtains drawn back, flowers in the sills, and the front gate left open. From the town below, people whispered of the witch who finally found peace, though no one had the courage to climb the hill and ask for proof. Inside, Sofia and Evelyn moved through the manor together, hands entwined. Candles lined the halls, their soft glow reflecting in Evelyn's dark eyes. She no longer shimmered, no longer felt distant, she was real, living, breathing, and laughing beside Sofia. They carved pumpkins in the front hall, their laughter spilling into the night, echoing through the centuries-old walls. When darkness fell, they lit the lanterns along the path, the golden glow spilling into the woods, marking a home built not on fear or superstition, but on trust, courage, and love. The townsfolk passed by on their nightly walks, catching glimpses of the light and laughter. Some whispered stories of a woman who had waited too long for love, and the stranger who had dared to see her. And every Halloween, without fail, a silver-laced candle flickered in Sofia's window. She and Evelyn would sit by the fire, sharing warmth, stories, and stolen kisses, knowing that the night itself had witnessed the impossible, a love that had survived centuries, a curse that had finally been broken, and two women who belonged together, as surely as the moon belonged to the sky. In Willow's Hollow, legends lingered, but this one was theirs.